Hey, listener, if you would like to promote your Etsy shop or your brand on the podcast by doing a giveaway, please get in touch with me. I put a lot of effort into the giveaways. I do a lot of promotion for your brand and your Etsy shop, both on the blog and in social media, and I'll also be promoting it right here on the podcast too. So if this is of any interest to you and you'd like to partner with me to help promote your Etsy shop or your creative business or your brand, please email me at interview@convome.com, or you can simply go to convome.com and use the contact form to connect with me.
Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama. Thank you so much for joining me. If you need to reach me online, you can find me on Twitter at ConvoMePodcast. You can also find me on Facebook. There's the Etsy Conversations Facebook page, and there's also the Etsy Conversations Facebook group. You can get to the group by going to convome.com/Facebook group. And my guest this week is Marissa. Marissa runs the Etsy shop Too Many Pieces, and she has an interesting story about how she came about setting up her Etsy shop, and we'll get into all that. But before we start, hi Marissa, and thank you for being my guest.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm glad to do it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm 22 years old. Right now I'm in between off school, just graduated from undergraduate school, and I'm working my way to apply and get into veterinary school. And in the meantime, I opened up a little shop to sell bead sprites.
Excellent. Now, why did you pick Etsy?
I picked Etsy because I think it represents the individual artist seller very well. And I think I can branch out to many different people by using this site.
Okay. When did you first discover Etsy?
I discovered Etsy a while back. I just never paid it too much attention, until a couple months ago, and I thought that everything on the site was pretty interesting and a lot more, had a lot more variety than I expected.
So now you said you sell bead sprites. Can you explain what those are for anyone who doesn't know?
Sure. So in olden video game days, when they used to use pixel characters, they had little squares filled in with colors to make these characters. And I can replicate these characters with beads on a pegboard and then melt them to create these pixeled characters, and they are called bead sprites.
Oh, excellent. So the people who would be shopping for these are people who are familiar with video games from back in the day and who want like some type of memento of those?
Right, yes. It could be from back in the day, or I've also taken modern video games and made sort of a retro look for them by remaking those characters into old pixel sprite style characters.
Oh, nice. Now, how did you learn how to do this?
Several ways. I mean, bead sprites use perler beads, which are a children's craft. And the basic idea, place the beads, melt the beads, then you have a piece of work. But with bead sprites, it gets a little bit more complicated, and I had to learn, by mostly experience, because so many things can go wrong with it. And also, a couple sites which explain different methods for making larger pieces and finding different colors.
When you melt them, do the colors blend in, or do the beads each maintain their own original color?
The beads should maintain their own original color. However, if you melt it improperly or get unlucky or some karma is against you, they can sort of like smudge or blend together. So you can have a little bit of difficulty with that. There's a lot of things that can go wrong.
Okay. Now, if that happens in a piece that you're making, do you start over, or is that what you would consider part of the character of the piece?
So the tricky part of doing bead sprites is trying to figure out how much I want to melt it is the trickiest part. Besides the other parts of picking out the colors, picking out the character, picking out the character's pose. Some people like only melting it a little bit so that you can see the holes, and that usually creates a very uniform look. It is, I think, easier to do and a lot safer to do without messing up your piece. I prefer what is called overcooking my pieces, that is trying to close up most of the holes, but trying to avoid over melting it as well. If I get a piece that I don't like the way it melted, I will usually just make a new one. And I have had that happen to me before. But usually I've gotten pretty good at it, and my melts usually turn out good, so I'm pretty confident with my melting.
Okay. Now, when you opened your Etsy shop, well, before I get to that, so is everything in your shop a custom piece, or do you make some that people can just buy off the shelf?
Everything I do is handmade. Some things are designed by myself, such as I have a Super Smash Brothers sprite that is made from, like a sort of rainbow ball in the game. And that doesn't have a sprite like the other characters I have, so I had to sort of design my own. That one I made up. And then also, a League of Legends character, which is a game that is relatively new and fairly popular, but doesn't use sprites. I made a Sona sprite for her using my own design. So that I had to plan carefully and really take the time and place the beads for. The other ones I can find the in-game sprites for. Sometimes I may need to change the colors a little bit, based off of what I have or what is available in the perler bead colors.
Okay. Now, did you develop an interest in this because you're a gamer too?
Absolutely. I've always loved, like sprite art, pixel art, in games like Fire Emblem. I've loved Pokemon sprites. I've loved the Castlevania sprites. And to be able to make them is just really cool.
Nice. When you opened your Etsy shop, which you opened in August of 2014, what was your original intention behind opening the shop?
My original intention was fairly the same as it was now. I wanted to be able to make a little bit of money off of something artistic, but also something somewhat practical, and or usable. I wanted to be able to implement both my interest in video games and my interest in art, into something to do while I had my year off. Mostly what I've been doing up till then, science, math, no art since high school, so I really missed it. So that's what I wanted to do.
Nice. So right now you're focusing on applying to veterinary school.
Mm-hmm.
Is Etsy what you do full time while you wait?
Etsy, I sort of treat this shop as mostly like a side project because I don't really expect to make a lot of money off of it unless it gets like really popular, which would be great. But in the meantime, I tutor. I like to tutor at my, tutoring center locally and help out with, somewhat of the older high school kids.
Okay. Now, do you know where you're going to be going to veterinary school?
Oh, geez. I really have no idea. It's just whoever takes me. It is so very hard to get into veterinary school.
Yeah. Because there aren't that many, are there?
No, there is like 26, or a little bit more. There's very few. They built a new one in Arizona and a new one in Tennessee. Those have yet to be approved by the AVMA, or the big organization that decides, you know, who's like a good vet school and can just practice right out of school, or who has to take a test. There's also a couple Caribbean schools, some of which are AVMA approved. But other than that, as an out-of-state student, because New Jersey does not have a veterinary school, it is very difficult to get in.
Wow. Well, good luck.
Oh, thank you.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Now, currently, how are you managing your time between tutoring and running your Etsy shop? And do you anticipate that once your in veterinary school, you'll continue to keep your Etsy shop open?
What I do is I tutor later because usually the tutoring hours are 3 onwards after school. So that leaves me plenty of time in the morning to have any Etsy projects, which I have gotten really fast at putting the beads down. Practice does make perfect. I think the longest part is actually the melting. So I do actually have time to do it, which is nice because I enjoy that time while I still have it. In vet school, I believe I would have far less time, but in the same strain of things, I do believe that I can make time to do small projects. I would just have to sort of extend my making period if I had a test or something.
Mm-hmm.
But these crafts, most of the time people like to order the fairly small, simple crafts that, are keychains or something small to have. They usually don't get large orders.
Okay. And so those will be, will have a quicker turnaround for making.
Right.
Okay.
And I think it's important to have something, if you're going to a really hard school like medical or veterinary,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to have another outlet or a hobby besides just studying.
Right.
All day.
Yes. And then the benefit would be you could be making money too on the side. Hopefully.
I believe I can. Yes.
Okay, good. Do you, are there other Etsy shops that sell bead sprites as well? And are they similar to yours?
Yes and no. I've seen quite a bit of sprite shops, a lot of which they melt in the sort of open hole fashion, which I tend to like to close my melts a little bit, which is a little bit more risky. They sell mostly small things I've seen. Some people sell huge pieces. And I think the difference between ours is I really like to talk to my buyers and get them exactly what they want. I just had a buyer who wanted a sage or a magic using character from Fire Emblem who does not have an in-game sprite. So I had to create the colors for this character based off of my own artistic ability rather than just copying a picture printed out. So I think my ability to really work with colors and find the best fit if there is not a better fit, as in the prillers don't have enough colors, I think that makes my shop different. I think the way I melt my pieces makes the shop different.
Okay.
And I think in general, just how well I work with other people makes my shop different.
Okay. Oh, cool. So your customer service is what you use to distinguish yourself.
Right. Oh, and also I can actually design the sprites myself instead of copying in case they want a character that does not have a sprite.
Oh, so you would create one from scratch? Oh.
Which is what I did with that Smash Ball before and also my Sona. Because they don't have sprites. Some of the other shops where they make sprites for characters that don't have sprites, either they replicate it with the same sprite from another game, and it basically, like, I've seen people use the same Mega Man sprite for like 80 different characters, and in my opinion, it doesn't look too great. But I have seen it.
Now, can I ask, so are bead sprites always gaming characters?
They don't have to be, because I can just sort of make that retro sprite look for anyone. And I was thinking of doing like sprites for TV shows, like Game of Thrones, or I've also seen some sprite artists make them for like college emblems. I think I could do a little bit of a better job because I would like to add some shadowing to the sprites, but yeah, something like Game of Thrones, which somebody would want like a retro look if they like both gaming and A Song of Ice and Fire, I think would be really neat.
Okay. Something for you to think about as you expand your Etsy shop.
Right.
So far, have you ever had to deal with any negative feedback or any disputes on Etsy?
I have not. I have the luxury of not having to deal with any negative feedback. I think I mean, I play League of Legends and I have been called every name under the sun. So I think if
What?
oh my goodness, the game, some people are just,
It gets
but
personal.
yeah, well, I mean, you kind of learn from a game like that, like to just be zen and just try to do your best with what you're given, you know? Cause they're behind a monitor screen. You don't see their face.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not gonna care, a lot of them. But I am pretty good at dealing with conflict and I feel like I could resolve things. If they had like a legitimate concern, like if they didn't like their sprite, I would try to work with them and remake it.
Yeah.
And if I felt like their concern was good enough, I would probably not charge them for the second one.
Okay. Yeah, just remember communication is key. As long as you keep talking with people and trying to figure out a way to work it out, I think most people end up happy. Sometimes there are people who you can't make happy, but for the most part, most people end up happy.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's talk about how you promote your Etsy shop. What do you do for Etsy shop promotion?
There is a subreddit for Etsy. It's quite small, but every week they have a post where you can post new items. I usually use that. I don't have a Facebook group, but I'm debating getting a Facebook page. I do have an Instagram, and that has been pretty successful in getting people to really see my pictures or like them or follow me. So I am trying to keep that up.
Where do you talk the most? Where do you communicate with people the most? I've been on the Etsy subreddit. So I know you can start a conversation, you can jump into conversations. Do you do the same thing on Instagram?
It is, I think honestly the place where I talk to the people the most is the Etsy site when they message me and I work with them for their custom piece. I have some very long conversations on that. The site is the subreddit is very small. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't really get too much conversation compared to like a bigger subreddit, but I think it's decent. I think Instagram though I get the most views. I don't know, less about conversations. They're more like quick snippet comments.
Yeah.
But I think Instagram is the one where I get like the most communication.
Okay. Do you ever look at your Etsy shop stats to see where your traffic is being referred from?
All the time. I love telling, if I'm chatting with my mom, I love saying, oh, I had like somebody from Italy visit today or Australia. Nice. So I check it really often because I have the app on my phone.
Oh,
so, right. Which also contributes to why I'm so on top of returning messages. So I definitely do check where my stats are from.
Yeah. Yeah. Having an app is very convenient.
Mm-hmm.
So do you also have a website as well, or do you blog about what you do anywhere?
I don't blog or have a website of what I do. I'm trying to mostly just keep it on Instagram and possibly Facebook.
Okay.
I am considering a blog, but I am not, at this moment, I don't think I really need one.
Okay. And how much time would you say you spend each week on all things Etsy related? So creating, fulfilling orders, responding to convos from buyers?
Well, if we're talking about checking the stats page and that sort of thing and little minor things with your items, that's like 24/7. But if it depends on how large of a project I have at that moment. If I have, like I had the last few weeks, a very large project, I will spend almost every day before tutoring, I guess, let's go with 15, 20 hours a week trying to iron it, placing the beads. I guess that would be my maximum.
Okay.
I mean, it's not the maximum I can do. That was the maximum I have done.
Right.
So. And then it could lower if I don't have any orders.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to have a little bit of work ahead of me because I want to try to do some fun stuff for Christmas, so.
Oh, yeah, you need to get on the Christmas ball.
Absolutely. Although I don't like doing it before Thanksgiving.
Oh, well, sorry. Well, I know that's the the quandary about Christmas sales is there's the nice big, family event, Thanksgiving, but then right after that, Christmas sales just, go into full gear.
Right.
Yeah. Could be a crazy time. Now, I'm assuming that because you haven't been open for that long, you still are in the honeymoon phase of your Etsy selling journey.
I would say so.
Yeah. How long? Sorry. So Marissa, when you're working on a more involved project, typically how long does it take? And do you put everything else on pause when you're doing those ones?
It really depends. For placing the beads, if it's like a huge project, like with my Street Fighter sprites, which are really large, they can take up to like a week. Sometimes if I need to order more beads, because some of them take special colors, which I have to order special beads online for actually quite a bit of money, surprisingly. It can take a little bit longer. I try to do them as fast as possible. And whenever I have time, but at the same time, the melting can't be rushed. If you rush your melting, it can get messed up. Right. So that absolutely has to be, you have to take your time. You can't use the iron, at too high of a heat, or you really just lose your character. I just had like the most heartbreaking thing happen. I made this huge, my last piece in the Street Fighter sprite, it took me 3 days to place the beads, and it took me like 3 more days to start the melting. When I started the melting, something happened, and it got squished, and like the face had like this terrible like smush in it, and I was just so heartbroken. I was just like, it's ruined!
Oh no.
I was like just losing my mind. So I was like, alright, I'm going to do this, and I got it beaten in like 1 day because I already knew how to beat it.
Yeah.
And I was determined. So I got that done super fast. And I think it looks even better than the first one because I didn't like the way I did the feet on the first one, and I got the chance to fix it. So hooray. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go on.
If I have a big project, I usually try to do the projects that I got first. If there's like a project that's small enough to squeeze in that I can do in like 2 hours or so, I'll do that just so I can get it out on time and then continue with the big project.
Okay. Have you ever considered putting all the sprites, the bead sprites that perhaps had some type of flaw together and then selling those? Do you think people would be interested in those?
Sometimes, I have actually like asked people if they wanted sprites that were like lower quality for cheaper or free, and I've gotten generally a positive response for it. Okay. The one sprite I have on display for a Sword Master, one of the first ones I made, the beads I used were really old, and some of them didn't melt properly in the belt, so they have like these huge gaping holes, like only in his leg and on his sword and on his belt, so it looks really strange. In my description I said, if you order this at full price, I will make a new one with like the correct colors and the correct beads that aren't old and won't like, do whatever the heck they did.
Yeah.
But I also offered on it, I said, if you want the pour melt, you can pay less for it. In my variations, I tend to add like a whole bunch of variations to my pieces.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Do you find, and I guess probably not because you're creating pieces based on characters, that you don't really get run dry creatively?
No, I mean, there's just so many different things I can do with the bead sprites. Like there's so many things I want to do. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to end up with like a house full of bead sprites just for myself. So I usually just wait for people to order them, and then I get really excited that I get to do them.
Oh, so you don't keep any stock on hand. Everything you make when you get the order?
Everything I make is made to order, usually.
Oh, excellent.
I have some stock that I made for like the example pictures,
Mm-hmm.
but I just have one of those. So if somebody orders like a custom order that I haven't made yet, or multiples of something, I usually have to make more right on the spot.
Okay. Do you then offer those custom creations in your shop? Like, will you take a picture and then list it? So if someone else wants the same thing, or not usually?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
If someone requests a custom order, will you start to carry it in your Etsy shop, or you just create the one for that person and you don't try and resell it?
I think what I was doing, I was originally going to have it just have the custom available, but customs are so broad and varied, and if somebody asks for a custom for a character that is a character other people would obviously really like, there's no reason for me to say, like, I can't make that for you, because even though this really popular character everybody likes is, is available, it's one of a kind. I can't make it. I have seen a couple other shops where they just post all of their customs, and I think that's what I'm gonna do.
Okay. What would you say are some things that you did before you opened your shop that you think helped to set you up to have success on Etsy? Or did you just jump into it and figure stuff out along the way?
I just jumped into it and figured stuff out on the way.
Okay. So have you had some hard
fun.
lessons then? Or what are some things that you've learned that maybe you would have done differently?
I would probably take more professional photos.
Okay.
I don't really have the nicest camera, to be fair. I'm using my phone for a lot of them, and I have to color correct a lot of it. But it works. I think some of the pictures have turned out nice anyway.
Mm-hmm. If you could have new features or additional features on Etsy that you don't see offered right now, what would you select?
If I could have new features, do you mean what Etsy would offer for new features or new items?
No, what Etsy would offer.
Well, let me think about that. I think it would be really neat if I could have more detailed custom request pages.
Oh, okay.
Because there's like a custom request button now, but I would like to be able to add in like ideas and variations to that custom request, like what game is it from, what size are you looking for, that sort of thing. Give something for people to think about.
Okay. What's your favorite part of selling on Etsy?
My favorite part is just all the different things that are available on Etsy. Just being able to look through it and then having my own try to branch out and be different. Yeah. That's kind of fun to me. It really shouldn't be because, but it is. I also just like how concise everything is. It's easy to understand. It's easy to upload and sell through. The site is really clean and it just works really well.
Do you find that you have to make a mental shift when you're going from gaming to crafting, or for you is it just all not one and the same, but it's you don't have to change your thought processes too much? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Not really quite sure.
Well, okay. So, when you're gaming, you're in a certain mode. You're in competition mode. You have your strategies. You know what what you want to achieve. Yeah. Then when you're creating the beat sprites, are you in that same mode, or is your mind working differently? Are you in a different place mentally?
That's a really interesting question. And I was thinking about this the other day, actually. How I would relate what doing these bead sprites is. And the thing I can relate it to the best is research, honestly. When I did research, I had to, you have to be very focused, no matter how tedious it is, because if you mess up one thing, you can mess up thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars of research funds or data. Really important. Small little impurities. If I was doing, say, PCR, which is a way of replicating DNA, small impurities. Just one little thing, if I do it wrong, or if I put too much in that I wasn't paying attention to with a pipette, or anything else really crazy. There's a million things that can go wrong with it. Will mess up the entire project. Whereas bead sprites are a little bit less intense. Thank the Lord, because I can actually relax, but at the same time, I have to sort of be able to have my mind be able to do that tedium and think of other things. Usually I listen to streamers on Twitch or other gamers who play their game and talk about it while they're on TV, I guess you could say. Such as League of Legends, and I usually listen to that while I sprite, so I can focus and do the tedium, but I also have like a radio I can listen to. If that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense. I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Marissa, if people want to reach you, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
The best way? My Etsy shop. Honestly, I read everything anybody sends me. I get back to it way too fast. I try not to seem like a stalker.
Like you're just watching your inbox.
Well, it comes up as like a notification on my phone, and as soon as I see the Etsy sign, I'm just like, oh my gosh! I just jump on it, and I'm like, okay, I need to not be creepy. So that is the best way. I will see it on Instagram as well, though, if somebody wanted to Instagram it.
Okay. It's not, it's enthusiastic.
I am very enthusiastic because honestly, the main goal, like, I love the art and doing the shop, and getting money would be nice and great too, but, they're small crafts. But my favorite thing is being able to make something for somebody that has nostalgia for them, or they really like. If I get, messages back, I've gotten a lot of messages back like, oh my gosh, I love it, or my girlfriend loves it, it is the best, I love this character. Like, people are really passionate about their video game characters, and I am too. So being able to share that is just the best.
Oh, nice. If there's one last thing that you want someone listening to know about your Etsy shop, or you, or what you're doing, what would that be?
Please don't be afraid to request a custom order. Or anything, not even just a random character that I don't have, or like a big character, but any type of thing that you can make a bead sprite into. If you wanted a coaster, if you wanted it wrapped around a mug, if you wanted it as lingerie, I will do, that one it would be hard. I would still try my best, but my point is, I will try my best to do something that you want, whatever it is.
Nice. Marissa, thank you so much for being my guest on the podcast, and thank you for your patience. What the listeners don't know is that doing this recording has taken us quite a bit of effort, and
I really appreciate you coming back for me. I really do.
Oh no, not at all. I really wanted to talk to you because I was curious about your bead sprites. I was not aware of this, and I don't get to talk to a lot of gamers. You just don't think Etsy and gamers. So no. I was like, yeah, I need to talk to her.
I wish there was more, because I was looking for Left 4 Dead and Team Fortress 2 items on Etsy for myself, and I only found like 1 or 2 pages for these really popular games. And come on, guys.
Well, maybe that's an open door for you.
Yeah, actually, I think it is.
Yeah, there you go. Create your own products, because if you're looking for it, there's probably somebody else out there who's doing the same thing.
Not the way I do it.
Good. Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. Marissa, thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Marissa's Etsy shop is Too Many Pieces. I will have links to her Etsy shop on the website, go to convome.com/too-many-pieces, and you can listen to the podcast again. You can see what Marissa is doing and check her out. I will be back next week. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.